But the people who are doing it over the next 5 years, they're like like the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musks who adopted the internet economy, right? There's people who bought domain names and they made $5 million or $10 million by buying and holding a domain name. And then there was people who invested in the internet economy. Those people are vastly wealthy. Like there's a difference in wealth between the guy that made $5 million off of holding a domain name and the guy who built the internet economy. Like those are two different types of wealth. And I think that's what we have before us now is...
Right, I think the multiplier effect is only gonna go up because the intangibles get more and more absurd, right? You know, I think to say, oh, gold's 10 trillion, so therefore Bitcoin's also gonna be 10 trillion, I think that's actually way too conservative. Michael Saylor thinks the same thing, that actually Bitcoin's probably gonna be way... Brian and Matteo.
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Luke,
hey,
how's it going?
Doing pretty well. It's very gorgeous here. The people are amazing. I can't believe we get to hang out with these people, and it's exciting to talk about the future. Yeah.
You look like you're living big here, so this is good.
Yeah, it looks like we're living big, but in reality, we're like on a cliff face. You know, this like...
I'm terrified right now, to be honest. This thing's
I'm gonna
precarious.
catch you. Don't worry, I'll catch you. Don't worry.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for coming out. Orange Pill app. You know, it's been great to get to know you guys a little bit over last year, and you know, see what you guys do at Orange Pill app and all that wonderful stuff. So, how about you introduce yourselves?
Well, my name is Matteo Pellegrini, and I founded this app called Orange Pill app because I wanted to meet more Bitcoiners. Even when I was in Santa Monica, which is, you know, it's a big city, a lot of people, but I couldn't find any Bitcoiners. So one day I come up with this idea, you know, an app with the geolocation, and then you have profiles, and then you see who's nearby. And so I created this app almost years ago now. And then he jumped on board.
Yeah, I mean, I jumped on board as a user. I just walked up to the booth. It was Pacific Bitcoin 2 years ago. It was the weekend that they launched, so I didn't know it was a new app. I saw the sign. It said, it wasn't Stack Friends that Stack Sats yet. Then it was just meet local Bitcoiners or something like that. Something like that.
You will meet Bitcoiners and you will be happy.
That's right.
They're playing on the World Economic Forum Day. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And I saw the sign and thought, you know what? I've been in that was, you know, this is a couple years ago, but as of right now, next month will be 10 years in Bitcoin, like as far as, you know, just studying it, buying Bitcoin, that sort of thing. And the only friends that I had that were Bitcoiners, I actually have a pretty decent Bitcoin circle around me by sheer force of will of like orange pilling my actual like normal friends and family. That's the only reason I have people to talk to about Bitcoin. People just put up with me enough to listen about it. But I realized that was very unique, and still even those people didn't want to talk about it all the time. Like they were on board enough to be like, okay, I got some Bitcoin. Okay, I get it that it's like the remedy for inflation. But beyond that, they didn't want to have those conversations. So I saw this app, and I'm thinking to myself, like, you know, this is a great solution. This is a great product market fit, because I'm the key demographic here, somebody that actually wants to meet other Bitcoiners. So here's a tool. So I walked up and got the pitch from Matteo, and at the same time, Michael Saylor walks up and gets the pitch. So Matteo stopped paying attention to me, but I ended up signing up. So, you know, we got a picture with Michael Saylor.
He's not jealous. So.
Yeah, I'm not jealous. I'm not resentful at all. But then, yeah, we stayed in touch through the app. Like a couple weeks after the conference, and then he said, hey, do you want to come on and kind of help me promote this thing? And so here we are. I mean, that's the power of in real life connections. Honestly, if I didn't meet Matteo in real life, if we didn't shake hands, if we didn't see each other eye to eye, because you get it. It's right now. I mean, I've watched your show plenty of times, and I've met you in person a couple times, and so I kind of know. But you just get a different level of respect, a different level of, again, it's just, why do we have this word vibe? We don't know how to explain it. There's just a vibe about somebody when you're in person. It's a completely different dynamic than online. So, I mean, that really was the magic sauce. And here we are, you know, a couple years later, and the app's growing. And I mean, we were just talking about this off air. We get to see people's messages all the time of, hey, I went to some random city and I had an impromptu vacation that I didn't think I was going to get to have because I met some Bitcoiners through the app, and it changed my experience there. I mean, people were having other stories of people like literally changing their lives because of the in-person connections that they're making through the app. So when we're having a tough day of like, man, you know what, we need to grow faster, or we need to do this, or we need to, what kind of vision do we need to have? We always come back to that, and we're like, this thing in real life connections change people's lives. And so it's not trivial. Like, we're doing something that actually matters here. And so when we do that, I mean, it really matters, and it really is a big deal.
So one day I was thinking about, so I built this app, we launched it, it's growing, and I got a message almost every day, this happened to me, thanks, blah, blah, blah. And then one day I was like thinking, like, if you look at your life, if we look at our lives, the most exciting moment of our lives, they always involve another person. Unless you're into yoga or like you meet your wife, you meet your husband, you meet your best friend, or you went to a great vacation. Like, humans need humans to thrive, but not online. I mean, online is cool, obviously, but the most special moments in your life, there's always another human involved. And so what we do, we create more of these unique moments. And Bitcoin is kind of the filter. Like, if you're in Bitcoin, I can already assume a lot of things about you, and I know we're probably gonna have a lot in common. And then you don't even talk about Bitcoin, but it's like you do 50% of the work of knowing if we can be friends through the filter of Bitcoin. And so it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And I was just going to add, like, it's a great point that, the most special points of our lives have people with them, right? And then, Brian, to your point about how there is a vibe.
Yeah.
When you're in person, there is a vibe. I mean, we were just talking before we started recording, like, why we could have had this conversation over Zoom, but why are we doing it in person? Why are we doing it here? Why are we doing it in Madeira? Why are we doing it with beautiful sunlight behind us? I mean, it's because I think it's a different vibe, and I enjoy it more, frankly. I think you guys enjoy this more. I think people watching this hopefully enjoy it. Hopefully people watching appreciate the effort that goes into, professional setup and in person with that. And hopefully, it results in all these podcasts I'm doing being better results. But I think that gets to that larger point that the relationships you build in person are, I think, so much better. The friendships people make at these conferences, I think, go a lot farther than what they make on Twitter. Even though there are great ones on Twitter, I mean, so anyway, I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, even one of my 3 camera guys over here, I talk to all the time on OPA, right? He's in the Midwest with me. So anyway.
And if I can add to that, I mean, I think that's this distinction between IRL and online is only going to grow if you think about it. I mean, we already know that there's chat bots on Twitter and things like that. That stuff blows us up. I mean, you're familiar with the Turing test? I mean, your audience probably is, but for those in the audience that don't know, it's like the Turing test is this concept of whether you can talk to AI and recognize whether it's a human or not. That's becoming more and more compelling, right? Like, you read something from ChatGPT and it sounds like a human wrote it. When we have only online connections, it's going to get to the point where it's going to be so lucrative for companies or for scammers or whatever to create relationships, not just like a 1 or 2 conversation relationship that somebody in in another country is having, like a chat farm, but like an AI that will talk to you for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. You're gonna have to talk to somebody and you feel like you know that person, and it might be AI on the other end of it, right? Deepfakes are gonna be more real than ever. You might have a video chat with somebody in the not too distant future and be convinced that this girl loves you online or that this guy is your best friend, and because you see their face and you think you're looking, like, the only check on that is going to be whether you know that person in real life. And you only have to have met them one time, right? It could have been at a conference, it could have been at a meetup, it could have been just a connection through Orange Pill app or something like that. But as things get more synthetic in the world, there's gonna be a reversion to more organic, natural things. And I just think that's the way the world's gonna work. It's happening with food, it's happening with medicine. It's gonna happen, I think, with personal connections too. It's gonna be we're gonna have to have that component in our lives.
Well, that gets back to the original Twitter, X post I made back in early 2023 before I even met you guys about less common with future in the past, right? And I think I guess to that point exactly is that, the whole less common future in the past thing, yes, is a bullish case for Bitcoin. Yes, number go up forever for Bitcoin. But, the point of that thread, the point of why that rolls around my mind is exactly what you said, that, for thousands of years we lived in a world where inherently every conversation, every letter, every communication, every hieroglyphic, right? Everything ever communicated was done by a person. And now less common feature in the past, we have already entered this weird phase where that's not necessarily true. And I think probably, like you said, the percentage that's going to grow. And so, to me, that is what's so important about the IRL stuff. Not just the personal connection, but also, like you said, a bot doesn't have impatience, right? If it's a scammer or it's someone that's just taking advantage of you, it's not going to get impatient after 2 weeks. It's going to, so from the practical safety perspective, but then frankly, even the more important perspective of personal relationship, it's like, I think of like the movie Her or other movies like those where it's, like we're entering a very weird era. And I think even the safety question aside, I think it's important people stay grounded because this is going to change. These bots are going to change in the world faster than our brains can emotionally keep up with it, I think. And so I think it's important we stay grounded. I mean,
the other point is also the censorship resistant aspect. Like, if I know you in person and I have your phone number, your email, whatever, and I know where you live, they can shut down every single online account that I have. I can find you. If you and I only connected online, it's one click. Our relationship is gone forever. So to build this relationship in real life with like the farmer, the gas station owner, the doctor, if we go to the CDBC scenario where the government is going to say, well, you had too much meat this month. Climate change, we can't eat too much meat. And that you can't physically pay when you go to the store. There's nothing you can do except if you know the farmer. And then you just go and pay in Bitcoin. You can't stop from paying in Bitcoin. And they can't stop you unless they physically put you in a cage, which obviously, they can't do at scale. So this, Bitcoin is all about censorship resistant. Like, we love it because, I can send you $1, $1 million, $1 billion to anybody, and nobody can stop us, which is great, obviously. But if we all stay home in front of a screen, what are we doing? Like, they can shut down. You can still send money to a stranger online, but once we know each other in real life and we have Bitcoin and local connection, that's where you're really outside of the system, and they cannot stop us. Yeah. So that's, it's from a strategic standpoint. If we don't know if CBDC are coming or not, but if they're coming, you want to know the butcher and the doctor and whatever else you need in your own life outside of that system, and it has to be in person.
Yeah. So all I was going to add to that is just, I think one of the common rebuttals, and it's people ask it all the time, is like, well, what do you think about alternative social media platforms and stuff like decentralized protocols and stuff? It's like that's a valuable part of being anti-fragile as a Bitcoiner, is having communications on Nostr and stuff. But it's the inherent weakness there. It goes back to the chatbot problem, right? If it's only online, Nostr is a really cool solution, and people think, are we in competition with Nostr? We're not. It's a sister. It's a cousin relationship. We're Orange Pill App's the in real life component to Nostr. The Nostr component's the online, like the censorship resistant online, but the check that the power that the state or whomever that is going to be an egregious offender of freedoms, they can go back again to wasting your time with chatbots, your scams, or Nostr isn't the place where you go and you publish. You don't post your address on Nostr, right? Because it's an open public platform, and so that's the difference. We need that because, like Matteo said, you want to be anti-fragile so that your communications are still open, but at the same time, the last line of defense, when all else fails, when your internet connection's cut off and everything, the people that you can walk down the street to, that's going to be the fail-safe. And that's how communities were resistant. We're on Madeira. We were actually talking about this. We're in Madeira right now. Why did people come to Madeira in the first place to settle? Well, it's probably on mainland Portugal. There's probably some like invaders that pushed people to this island. That's usually why people inhabit islands. And it was a community of people that came together, and that was their last line of defense. They came together and they moved to an island to evade the tyrant. And that's how you get away. It's in your tribe, it's with your people, and you come together and you do that. And we don't always want to think in last line of defense, because that's like the ultimate pessimistic model. But you think about what's the optimistic model. Like, the parallel circular economy is also going to be in real life. And if hyper Bitcoinization happens, which I think it will, I actually think it's going to be blue skies ahead. I think Bitcoin's so powerful, and the social layer, the Bitcoin social layer is so powerful at this point. I don't think you can say it can't be stopped, but I think that it's getting to the point of escape velocity. I think we will hit hyper Bitcoinization at some point. And so the connections you have in the parallel economy will never have been more valuable as well, right? Like, if you ride the train of the parallel economy, the rising tide lifts all boats. Yeah. And if I'm already exchanging my goods and services for Bitcoin, you're ahead of the game. Right now, the masses are just now getting exposed to Bitcoin through the form of an ETF. Those people that are buying an ETF, they might never exchange products and services for Bitcoin at any point in the next 5 or 10 years, or they might not ever do it. But the people who are doing it over the next 5 years, they're like the Jeff Bezos and the Elon Musks who adopted the internet economy, right? There's people who bought domain names and they made $5 million or $10 million by buying and holding a domain name. And then there was people who invested in the internet economy. Those people are vastly wealthy. Like, there's a difference in wealth between the guy that made $5 million off of holding a domain name and the guy who built the internet economy. Like, those are two different types of wealth. And I think that's what we have before us now, is the social layer, the interpersonal connections enable the development of that parallel economy and the flourishing of those people that are participating in it. So whether it's a really pessimistic model or an optimistic model, I think that there's a really strong case for these interpersonal connections.
Yeah, people ask me all the time, Luke, how do I start making content about Bitcoin? Luke, how do I find a business connection in Bitcoin? Or how do I get a job in Bitcoin? Or this or that, the other. And yes, it's the applications. Yes, it's everything else. Yes, it's putting in the proof of work and doing things that people find valuable. But it's also just showing up. I mean, I've had that conversation with others, that it's just a matter of showing up, hanging out with people in real life. I mean, and making friends. Because if you make friends, if you make friends and you make friends for the purpose of just having a friendship, not doing it for money, like, people begin to trust you. When people begin to trust you, they want to do things with you, right? Yep. It's just that simple.
Yep, it's true.
When you think about it, somebody asked me that question, like, because on the Orange Pill app, obviously everybody knows me, and they think I have all these connections, but I don't. I mean, I do it more now than before, but it's not like, I'm Michael Saylor, right? Not yet. And they say, well, I would love to find a job in Bitcoin. So now there's a group chat in Orange Pill app for people that are looking to hire and people that are looking to find a job. And I hear all the time, I found a guy. And I'm like, look, a person is going to hire you. We go back to person. Like, who's going to hire you? A person. Like, either the manager or the boss, or who's going to refer you to somebody with a Bitcoin company. It's going to be a person. So, there's a saying, your network is your net worth. In Bitcoin, it's exponentially true. Because obviously, you have the asset that goes up in value, and then you have the connection that also help the asset grow and the adoption rate. And so the more friends you have, the more connection you have, especially if they're in real life, or even if they're through the app. Sometimes they tell me, like, there's a guy in Iceland, there's a famous guy in Iceland. They say, well, man, I want to sign on your app, but is anybody else? I say, man, you're in Iceland. What do you mean there's anybody else? It's just you. And they say, well, I don't know. So they eventually sign up and he got a lifetime membership. And it's like, well, it doesn't matter. I know sometimes and so 2 weeks later, somebody flew to Iceland on vacation, and through the app they met each other, right? And now they're friends, and now they might never see each other again because they live on the other side of the planet. But because we have the paywall, so it's a membership based, you have that extra filter, like, I'm in Bitcoin for real, that I'm paying to use a small app as of now. And so those connections are just gonna grow in value. and then opportunities come from human connections.
Yeah, you already touched on a point that people that I've seen people. I mean, obviously you're within Orange Pill App, so I don't know, but from the outside and from knowing you guys over the last year or so, the main critique I've seen of Orange Pill App is that it costs money, right? And I get it. I got negative comments too. Some of which are constructive and cheerful, others are very negative, right? And so sometimes people do get really mad. And so I guess the question is, are you guys grifters? As some people claim, it's like you charge for the software, you charge for the app. And so I guess my question is a friend or 2 or 3 friends made through the app worth $100, do you think?
So, yeah, that's a great question, obviously. So I tell you how I end up with the membership model, right? So I come up with this idea and I say, okay, great, obviously to build an app costs money, many, many thousands of dollars, right? And I'm like, there's really 2 business models when you go down to first principle. There's the honest model. The honest business model is like, you go to a restaurant, you know the price, you eat, you pay, that's done. That's how the world used to work before fiat. And then there's a dishonest business model, like everything is free. Obviously, if you know anything about economics, there is no such thing as free, because everything costs something. And the person that is building the free product is probably not Mother Teresa. Like they're there for the money, not for the profit. So they're gonna find a way to monetize you, to get your data, to sell it to the highest bidder. And I'm like, this is, to me, is the most anti-Bitcoin business model that could ever be. Like, I build the product, you come for free, then I have to track you, I have to do advertising, which also, by the way, it's counterintuitive because the goal of the app is to go offline. Here, pizza, beer, go for a ride, whatever. If I was doing advertising, my incentive would be to keep you online.
Watch more ads.
Exactly. Which is one of the problems of social media. When they're free, like they have to do ads, right? Because somebody has to pay for the server and the developers and all that kind of stuff. So that's number 1. Number 2, my other problem was I went to a meetup once before I had this app, and I drove an hour. In LA, you drive an hour to go anywhere, and then I got to this meetup. I don't know anybody. 10 people. This is like 2021, right? So NFT craze. So there were people that are not in Bitcoin, they were in NFT. I'm like, I drove an hour to meet Bitcoiners, and now I have to hear about this NFT guy. Like, it's such a waste of time, and it cost me way more than $3, right? To drive, the parking, the beer, whatever. And so the paywall is not just a business model. That obviously is honest, right? You pay to get in, and so you're not the product. The product is the product. But also, it's the filter. Everybody that gets in, it's the same concept of proof of work. Like, Bitcoin is the most expensive technology invented. You had to buy the asset to use it, which, it could keep going up in price, and then you had to pay the fees to send it across, to use it, to actually use it, right? And that's why it works. And now, in Bitcoin, we all know proof of stake cannot work, and proof of stake is free. There's no mining fee, right? And the proof of stake model, actually, if you look around the world, it exists in a lot of places. Social media is a proof of stake model. And the proof of work, you pay to use the product. And then there's another philosophical concept, like, the person that pays is the person in charge. Always. When you don't pay, the other person is in charge. And so I didn't want to create a place where I was in charge of people, connection and relationship, and do the ads and that kind of stuff. And then also I didn't want to create a place where if it was free, so I give you an example. So in El Salvador, it's the only place that the app is free. Because, we want to support El Salvador, blah, blah, blah. And then a couple of months ago, somebody told me, man, I love your app, but in El Salvador, there's like 1 convict felon on the app and 1 non-scammer. And it's like, oh, okay, it validates my model. Like, when it's free, you get the noise. Mm-hmm. That's free equal noise. And so the paywall, it just keeps us honest, but it also keeps the network honest. And so it's a no-brainer. Plus, the last point is that I want to make, Bitcoiners, if you've been in Bitcoin for more than a couple of years, you have kind of trauma from all the noise that is thrown towards us. Like you watch CNN or New York Times, crypto is now Bitcoin, and then Solana and Bitcoin is the same thing for the mainstream. It's so the noise. So the Bitcoiners really have a deep understanding of what is the noise and how dangerous is the noise, and so that's why we're growing so fast, because this model would never work in the fiat world.
Right.
But in Bitcoin world, because we are inherently aware of the noise and how dangerous it is, and the bots problem and the scam problem and the spam problem, the paywall actually, obviously you can run the experiment twice, but I'm pretty sure the paywall actually increased the adoption of the app. Because people say, I just want to pay, I want to use this service, I don't want to be tracked, I don't want to be sell the advertising, and I want to talk to other Bitcoiners that I know they're high signal and low noise. So that's the story of the paywall. And as much as I want to take credit for the app growth, the paywall is probably like 50-60% of the success, just the filter at the door. And go. It's the same idea with Bitcoin. There's no free rides in Bitcoin. Michael Saylor has to pay transaction fee, and the guy in El Salvador that's buying Puposa has to pay transaction fee. And that's why it works.
No.
That's spot on. I mean, like, there's 2 points that Matteo made there. It's just like worth expanding on just for a second. It's the difference between fiat model and the Bitcoin model, right? Like, so when we pay a credit card, when we pay a transaction fee with fiat, nobody realizes. I'm a merchant. I have businesses, so I pay merchant fees. The customer thinks that there's no merchant fee. If the thing costs $100, they think that it costs $100. They don't realize that there's tax in that. They don't realize that there's the merchant, 3% merchant fee. They think, and so it's this idea of the difference between what's the difference between sending a payment over Visa and sending a payment over Bitcoin is with Visa sets, and actually they've been sued a bunch of times for colluding with MasterCard on this, by the way. There's a $7 billion class action lawsuit because of this collusion that they have, because they've been artificially jacking up those rates because they know consumers don't look at it. So they can just mark it up to whatever they want. But with Bitcoin, ahead of time. That's why Bitcoiners are constantly talking about, oh my gosh, the fees are so high. That's one of the inherent things that happens when you're presented with the facts up front. Right? There's a little bit of grumbling about it, right? Like that, yes, that's some people complain, oh, well, why does Orange Pill app have a paywall? We complain about the same things in Bitcoin. Why are the network fees so high? It's because we're presented with that information ahead of time. It's a new model for us. It's something that we're not used to. Again, I've been paying transaction fees in Bitcoin for a while, so now I'm to the point where I say, like, I appreciate the transparency of the Bitcoin network. The reason why I'm presented with the fact about the transaction fee is because I'm presented with the information to decide what I want to do with my money. Maybe I'll wait till tomorrow, till the sats per VByte goes down a little bit, right? Like that's my prerogative as a Bitcoiner when I'm presented with that information. So again, it's the difference between being presented with real information up front versus hidden costs, right? And what it's Seb Bunny's book's called The Hidden Cost of Money, right? Like, he talks about this. This is a very real thing. What is the true cost of money? So it flips that script. And then the other thing too, the cost, most people pay for a lifetime membership in sats, but we do have, you can pay, in fiat if you wanted. The fiat cost is about $3 a month. It's not huge. We ran a study. Twitter sells about $9 of your information per month. Facebook sells $32 of your information per month. So if you want to break it down to the dollars, it's the cheapest option. It's just you're presented with the information up front. So it's vastly more expensive in terms of your data and your privacy to use one of those other apps.
I could really relate to all the things you're saying, because obviously I put out more YouTube videos than pretty much anyone. I'm a top 1% YouTuber, not in an arrogant way, but just because I interact with the YouTube behind the scenes more than just most people, right? And most people shouldn't. I mean, it's got trade-offs, right? But it's like, that's what people don't realize. People complain about, oh, well, there are ads in the YouTube videos, but it's like, my point is that you're what you're talking about is intangibles. There's tangible costs, intangible costs, right? And with YouTube, like even this video people are watching, it's like you either pay the intangible cost of your time by watching the ads, maybe adds up to maybe 20, 30 minutes, an hour of your time a month, or you pay for the YouTube premium or whatever they got, where you don't watch the ads. Maybe you save 30 minutes or an hour of your time a month for not watching and pressing skip on the ads, right? And, you know, so in my work at the Bitcoin Advisor, it's the same thing. People, just like you guys, people come to me at the Bitcoin Advisor, they hear about what we do, like, oh, wow, that's really interesting. But wow, that's so expensive, Luke. How is it so expensive? And I explain to them, you know, Bitcoin Advisor, we've been doing this 8 years, you know, since 2016, and we've had this fixed cost for a reason, because the intangibles are so much greater. And so then people go, wait, oh, you're just gouging, whatever. Then they do the research, they understand the intangibles Bitcoin Advisor offers, and then they come back to me like, yeah, your fee is actually really cheap. Yes, it's a tangible, you know, tangible slap on the wrist, let's say, but the intangible is so much more, it's negligible. And so, you know, people ask, same thing. Oh, Luke, you're just shilling Orange Pill app again. You know, there you go about OPA again. You know, those grifters just charge $3 a month. And I'm like,
yeah.
You know, and I've tried to explain to people, right, that, you know, if you really understood the intangibles of this app, you know, I mean, like $3 a month for this. I mean, the intangibles of, you don't have to worry about your data being sold out, right? Because as Matteo, you wonderfully said, the people that pay the bills are in charge, right? It's like, do you want to be in charge?
It's always like that.
You want the advertisers to be in charge, right? Or, you know, like a single friend, right? I mean, like I've made multiple friends, you know, including Tony. Hi, Tony, over there, you know, in large part due to the Orange Pill app. And it's like, is one new friend worth $3
it's
a month?
potentially invaluable.
Right, yeah.
It's, but next time, so I've you know, I heard that criticisms thousands of times. So next time somebody tell you, well, you know, it's $3 a month, like you should ask, would you rather them selling your data to the highest bidder?
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna say, yes, please sell my data to Starbucks or Nike or Facebook or Google. You know, I mean, nobody that understand, appreciate the value of Bitcoin would say, yes, let's do proof of stake.
Well,
you know, let's pay the miners, so we are in charge of the network, not the miners. Or you can do the proof of stake model, where Vitalik is in charge of the network because it's free. But you know, and also the other point about ads, because obviously I spend a lot of time thinking about this stuff, right? When you think about it, so when you watch ads, who's paying for the ad? Like the advertiser, like let's say Nike, right? Nike spent probably hundreds of millions of dollars in ads, which means Nike has to increase the price of the shoes to pay for the ads. So not only your data is sold to Nike, so they can target you, but then when you go buy the Nike shoes, they're more expensive because you use YouTube for free. Like somebody has to pay for the ads, which is always the final consumer, indirectly with very. So there is no free lunch. You know, we go back to that point, and so like, you know, another example I just say, imagine you go to a restaurant and the guy said, well, everything is free. Who would trust that restaurant?
It's like, okay, buddy.
Right, like right. What's in this food, right?
Yeah.
Nobody would try, like we instinctively would never trust a restaurant or a hardware store that everything's free, don't worry. But somehow we trust social media companies that have way more power and way more data. And that's, I think it's one of the many fiat diseases that we've been trained. Because, you know, I could go and raise a couple $1 million, especially when interest rate was zero. Go raise $1 million, do everything free, and then sell the data. That's the business model of Facebook and Google and Snapchat and TikTok and Twitter and all that. It's the most dishonest thing ever. Like Bitcoin, you know, we have a mission, I think, of kind of restoring the truth, restoring honesty in the world, because fiat is kind of like an octopus that is everywhere, and we don't see him because it's free. But once you think about it, you know, pay for the things that you like, and you're in charge. And you don't have to worry about ads, and then the price of the things is actually gonna go down because they don't have to pay for the ads, the manufacturer. So yeah, it can get very philosophical, but
Yeah.
Well, you get the
And
point.
to your point about the free food thing, I can think of actually one time in recent history, I remember a place offering free food. Remember when Shake Shack offered a free burger and fries to get the vaccine?
Oh, man.
Like that was the thing. Shake Shack in New York City, they
Wow.
were offering free food, but you had to come in and get the vaccine. So
Wow.
again, that's case in point.
It's not free.
It's not free.
Yeah.
Like if they're telling you it's free, the cost is going to be higher
Yeah.
than what you'd be willing to pay for it if you knew what the payment was.
Exactly.
Well, speaking on intangibles again, like you can have the optimistic, happy. Oh, is a new friend, a single new friend? If you make one new friend over the course of a year, like is that $36 over the course of a year worth that one new friend? Right? You could have the positive way, or you could, with like the Shake Shack example, have the negative. It's like if you have the restaurant gives out free food, it's like okay, great, you save $20 on a meal,
And
but
next year you have diabetes. You're at the hospital.
or not even that, but like food poisoning, right?
Yeah, right.
It's like, is that worth it? Or your example of driving an hour to some
Exactly.
Bitcoin meetup that was NFT.
It cost me more than $3.
Yeah,
I
it
promise
costs
you that.
your time, your driving, I mean,
Yeah.
so anyway, like
Yeah.
I fully see that, and I think this problem we're really getting at, and
Yeah.
I know you guys at Orange Pill App, I know me at Bitcoin Advisor, and hopefully other businesses and business owners out there understand this too. And replicate these models, is that I think it's fiat thinking, right? I don't think it's just, that's just a mistake people make. I think
Absolutely.
it's fiat thinking to
Yeah.
prioritize the currency unit cost over the intangible cost. And hopefully with Bitcoin, people
Right.
understand what Bitcoin unlocks is intangible benefits.
Well, and Bitcoiners should be asking these questions, right? Like every Bitcoiner at some point before they knew about Bitcoin should have called Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme, right? Like as Bitcoiners, we're inherently skeptical of the new thing. And so I think it's because we've been framed by fiat thinking. Actually, legit Bitcoiners in your comments should be saying things like, "Oh my gosh, they're probably grifters," right? Like that shows that they have a contrarian thinking. Like that's great that they probably enjoy your show, but they're still questioning the things that you say. Like that's the healthy response. It's not until hopefully, if they watch this interview or if they kind of think through these principles and these kind of philosophical ideas, it becomes more apparent that okay, this is the new model, but that's actually appropriate for Bitcoiners. Like every Bitcoiner was skeptical of Bitcoin. No Bitcoiner just got into Bitcoin because somebody said the number was going to go up, right? We had more questions, and so that's fine.
By the way, it's not the new model. It's the old model.
You're right.
It's the old model.
Like if you look at history,
Yeah.
I promise you, 200 years, like before fiat, I don't think there's any business where say, yeah, everything's free.
Yeah.
It's only because of fiat.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
true.
get a loan, and the value of the loan goes down, and then you can exploit.
Yeah.
This is, it's the point that you were saying, like, the past and the future. It goes in circle. Like Bitcoin is actually restoring the old model, the pre-fiat model. Obviously, we were born in fiat, so we don't even know. We always seen it's fiat, but we're actually restoring the model that used to work for thousands of years.
And it restores the incentive for people to do their research, right? It's like to your point, Brian, it's that people should people see the cost of something, they do their research, right? And I think we're so used to not having to do research because everything's just given free, like, oh, buy my course, put your email in the description, it's free for the next 12 hours, right?
Right.
Do it, right? Like with those ClickFunnels or the stimulus check, oh, it's just free stimulus, take it. You don't think about, we're not, printing money's okay, right? And so I think really what I see at my work at Bitcoin Advisor, what I see you guys doing indirectly via, just knowing you guys at Orange Pill App, is that very thing that I think people at first are skeptical and then they realize, oh, this is part of restoring the
That's
old
the
way of
Bitcoin
things
way.
that you
That's
have to
the
do.
Bitcoin way.
Right, you do research before you buy versus, giving something for free is a marketing tactic to encourage people to not do
It's
their
a dishonest,
research.
yeah. It's like
Yeah.
the drug dealer.
Yeah.
Like if you ever had a friend, or if you ever, they always give you the free dose. The first dose is always free because they know they're gonna catch you later. It's the same.
Was that with your drug dealers? Is that how it happened? He
Yeah,
gave you-
I mean, shoot, man, my drug deal,
Fiat
all the
is-
things,
you
all
know,
the
when you-
drugs, yeah.
The central bank is a drug dealer.
Yeah.
They give you free money. They give you free welfare and stimulus check. It is the same
Yeah.
idea. Get in for free, then you're hooked to the government programs, and now you depend on us.
Social Security, all that other
Right?
stuff, yeah.
It's there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
You just have to spend some time to think.
Yeah.
What's the right way of doing business. You
Right.
know.
And hopefully others replicate your business. But so far, you guys seem to be doing it very well for me. So
Yeah,
I'm a happy user.
It's I tell investor like they always say, what's your unfair advantage, right? Like you're Steve Jobs, you're super smart man. I'm not Steve Jobs, not even mad, but what I always tell, like, nobody is ever gonna be as crazy as me of launching a network from zero with a paywall. It never happened before. Like and I had a lot of conviction because I studied Bitcoin and my past experience. Like, I don't think anybody in the social aspect, and if you look at Nostr, everything's free. Even if they're the Bitcoin ethos, like, it's really hard to say, well, I want to grow a network by charging everybody. It's actually, if you don't think about it, it's actually insane.
Yeah.
Like, no, you get everybody for free, and then when you have enough user, you start monetize, blah, blah. And which for me was like, it's so lame. I just charge people to build a product or a service and just charge them. And if they don't pay, it simply means your product service is not valuable.
Yeah.
It's simple as that.
What's the percentage or the number multiplier you guys have grown in the last year, 2 years? 10x, 5x, 100x?
Well, we're growing fast because obviously you start from zero, and we haven't been live for 2 years. We launched November. Actually, it's funny. So FTX blew up on a Friday. We launched on a Wednesday after. Literally, the price of Bitcoin was 15.6, which it was a blessing that we launched when Bitcoin was at the bottom. So we launched 14. We've been live for 14 months, 15 months.
Yeah, and everybody from FTX needed a job, so we brought them on.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So, we've been growing like crazy now because you start from zero, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think on average, last time I checked, we've been growing like 8% monthly compounded.
8% monthly compounded. So,
of course, it's going to slow down eventually.
Yeah.
But although, there's a bull run now, so more Bitcoiners are getting in Bitcoin.
Yeah, but retail's not here yet, or at least at the time of recording, very, very early 2024. Retail's not here yet, right?
They'll come. They'll come.
Yeah, they will come. And when they see that there's a paywall for you guys, they will stay away.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's actually a good thing for the people that want to use it, right? So I guess my encouragement for everyone is that, if these guys are still growing at, a significant growth rate, despite from, day one charging these fees for these people, maybe there's some intangible there you should check out, right? Like, even if you just want to sign up for a month, check it out, and then you hate it, leave a month later, it's like, it's a very low cost, right? Check it out, give it a try Orange Pill app, like, again, just like the YouTube videos, people are willing to go through the tangible cost of watching the ads or paying YouTube to not watch the ads. They're willing to go through that cost because they find value in my videos or like my work at Bitcoin Advisor. People are willing to pay the tangible cost because they understand the intangibles, and hopefully we see more businesses approach that model instead of the perverse model. So yeah, I really encourage people to consider Orange Pill app. And I guess my last question for you guys is a fiat hook to get people into understanding these kind of deeper things. But what you're doing with the social layer of Bitcoin, or maybe the social layer of Bitcoin in general, what does that do for accelerating number go up? Like, how much does Bitcoin become more valuable, either tangible number go up or intangible life value, as a result of the social layer, which you guys are helping accelerate?
Well, yeah. So, when you think about Bitcoin, enough time, you realize, Bitcoin is a social construct. Satoshi made up the rules. It's not in nature, right? There's no gravity. The block size could be bigger or smaller. They try to change. So, where does the price of Bitcoin come from, right? If you just care about the price, it's from people buying and selling, right? And so, where does the consensus come from? From the people agreeing on the rule of the network. There's nothing in nature that prevents Bitcoin to be 100 million tokens or the block size to be 1 second or 100 hours. There's nothing in nature to prevent that, right? So Bitcoin is Bitcoin is the Bitcoiners, and Bitcoiner is the Bitcoin. And so, when you create more connection in real life between Bitcoiners, you increase the conviction of, maybe I'm not just a crazy guy because my family think I'm crazy, my colleagues think I'm crazy because they're not into Bitcoin. Now I meet another guy or another girl, and we talk about Bitcoin, and we get conviction. And obviously that makes they hold their hands stronger, if you will. And then somebody told me this thing that when I launched this, I said, well, this app is gonna orange pill people. And I said, it's not possible. Like, in my view, the app was like, okay, you've been into Bitcoin for many years, you listen to the podcast, you read the books, and now you want to meet Bitcoin. So that's the end of the journey of a Bitcoiner, right? That's what my theory. And then this thing happened. You know, I talked to a guy. It's like, well, you know, how did you hear about the app? Like, tell me. And I said, well, this is very funny. This guy said, well, I keep hearing about Bitcoin, but I don't know anybody in Bitcoin in real life, and I don't know any Bitcoin. But I wanted to meet people in Bitcoin to ask questions about Bitcoin. So I downloaded your app as a no-coiner. No. Like, it's amazing. Yeah. It's actually what that guy predicted, you know, many months ago. And so there is also an educational part that the app is providing that's beside what my intention were. And also people like, they find like a shortcut, like instead of watching Sailor, Breedlove, and Safe Within 4 hours, they go on Orange Pill app because they know they're almost all maxi on the app. And we love to teach newcomer. And they just ask questions, hey, how does mining work? And they just use the app as an educational tool on top of being like a social networking tool. So yeah, and obviously it's a small part, I mean, yeah. But since we launched, the price only went up.
That's true.
That's all I can say.
It's causation, not correlation.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, yeah. We'll see about that.
But no, I mean, the reason why, so when Matteo pitched me at Pacific Bitcoin, and I was just signing up as a user, the in-real-life connection, the interpersonal connection was important. But when he talked about the roadmap, it was the part that caught my attention. Like I said, I'm a merchant myself. He told me on the roadmap, so this thing that was going to come, which we actually just launched 2 months ago, is the merchant section. So now you can open the app. One section you can find all the local Bitcoiners. The next section you can find all the local Bitcoin businesses that actually take Bitcoin. And sidebar on that, as a merchant, when you don't like I've accepted Bitcoin for 4 or 5 years now, but like my manager, because we hardly ever get Bitcoin transactions right now, like my manager doesn't effectively teach my staff how to use the Bitcoin terminal and stuff like that. So we've had people that have come in, and then that employee hasn't been trained on how to accept Bitcoin. So we're a Bitcoin business that didn't accept Bitcoin. I mean, like, how frustrating is that for a Bitcoiner to go through that process? Now, one of the solutions we've made with Orange Pill app is every merchant can just copy and paste their Lightning URL into their profile. And so every merchant on there has a way that you can zap them. So there's a point of sale that's built right in through the app. So even if one of my employees isn't trained on how to do it, they can just zap our account the appropriate amount, and that's never a problem ever again. So as a merchant, like, I don't think, unless you've been somebody that's tried to spend Bitcoin at a company, or you're a merchant who's tried to accept Bitcoin and your manager forgets to train somebody on how to do it appropriately, it doesn't seem like a huge solution. This is one of those pain points that allows you to go from like nobody accepting Bitcoin to every merchant like easily being able to accept Bitcoin. And how big of an idea is this? Well, we always talk about the store of value for Bitcoin is like $11 trillion if it takes over the gold market cap. GDP is $94 trillion around the world, right? Like, so you want to talk about conquering a portion of the market. Oh, what is Bitcoin valued at 1% of gold or 10% of gold or all of gold? Well, what is Bitcoin when it takes over 1% of GDP? If it takes over 10% of GDP and it takes over 100% of gold, like, you're at 100% over what gold's store of value narrative is, right? If it takes over any portion of commerce, that's quite possibly the biggest factor in number go up, because then think about it. If it's only being used in commerce, if everybody's accruing Bitcoin so that they can use it in commerce, it's never being sold on exchanges. And I know you talk about the multiplier effect. It would make the multiplier effect go bananas, right? Because nobody has it at the margin anymore. Like safety, always talks about Bitcoin sold at the margin. Well, when there's no Bitcoin to be sold at the margin because it's in everybody's Lightning wallets, because you only need a few million people to have a few million sats in their wallets, and then a bunch of gold bugs that are now into Bitcoin that are just hoarding it. Like, that combination makes it so that there's no Bitcoin on exchanges. And so every dollar that goes into Bitcoin isn't just a 100x multiplier. You could be talking about a 1,000x multiplier on every Bitcoin that's being sold, because nobody reasonably wants to sell it. So yeah, I think honestly, I don't think it's just like a little idea. I think it's actually the biggest idea in Bitcoin. We don't talk about that a lot because I think it sounds a little, it sounds a little over $1,000. And that, I'm not just saying Orange Pill app, all commerce for Bitcoin is going to be through Orange Pill app. What I'm talking about is Bitcoin as a money for using in business, whether that's just you use your own Lightning wallet or you use Bitcoinized terminals or whatever it happens to be. Orange Pill app is going to be a portion of that, I think. Those solutions are going to be a $94 trillion market, and it depends what percentage. Bitcoin's some percentage of that, right? It's not even registering right now as 1% of that. Bitcoin right now is some basis point percentage of the world GDP, because I used Bitcoin this week a bunch of times. I know that it's being used. At some point, it will be a more material amount, and I think that's a huge, huge idea.
Well, 1% of 94 trillion is 940 billion, right? I mean, that's a lot of money, right? So, and obviously more than the money is the intangible value, right? I think the multiplier effect is only going to go up because the intangibles get more and more absurd, right? I think to say, oh, gold is 10 trillion, so therefore Bitcoin's also going to be 10 trillion. I think that's actually way too conservative. Michael Saylor thinks the same thing, that actually Bitcoin's probably going to be way more because there's numerous intangible benefits Bitcoin brings, right? It's like saying, oh, digital maps that can bring you a car to pick you up, to take you to the restaurant that you can read the reviews for in real time. Oh, that's worth the same as an atlas in your back car, right? It's like, no, the new digital map that brings 10 times the value has a market cap of tangible and intangible value way greater than the tangible thing alone. So
I actually break that down in Bitcoin evangelism. The best year of sales for paper maps ever was somewhere in the 1990s or late 1980s. The most map sales ever done in 1 year is $40 million of map sales. What are digital maps now today? That industry accounts for 200 billion plus in economic activity every single year. To your point, it wasn't because humanity's need for navigation was only $40 million. Better technology unlocked humanity's true need for navigation, right? And then, so therefore, that's why the multiplier effect comes in.
Yeah. Well, in the same way, we hope the multiplier effect for Bitcoin number go up. I encourage people to do a multiplier effect on their own life, right? And so, not only will Bitcoin 10x, but hopefully people 10x the number of friends they have in their life. And so obviously they can do that on Twitter for free. They can do that in the YouTube comment section for free with all the bots that I know you guys complain about. And yes, I do get rid of the bots, the comments in the bots in my comment section. I do get rid of like 80% of them. Those are just the ones that get through. But yeah, you can do it on Twitter for free. You can do it on YouTube for free. But I'd encourage that if you understand that nothing in life is free and you want to stop sacrificing your time and just make a nominal little sacrifice of a few sats, I highly encourage you to think about the intangible value, sign up for Orange Pill app, and hopefully they'll be somewhere nearly as close as happy as I am with the product. So thanks guys for coming on.
Thanks, man.
Thank you,
Really
Luke.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Luke.
As a fun little present, and thanks to you guys for doing this, I have a little intangible benefit here for you guys. So obviously Bitcoin tangible is number go up, price go up for people, right? Everyone's in Bitcoin for bringing monetary and property rights to 8 billion people, but there's intangible benefits as well. I was in South Africa and I made a couple friends there via Orange Pill app, actually.
Nice.
And one of the things that a lot of local Bitcoiners in South Africa talked about was that our environment is being destroyed, right? Basically, there's the direct cost. Energy is too expensive. There are blackouts every day in South Africa, right? Everything's very expensive, et cetera, et cetera. But there's intangible benefits too, right? Our water's getting polluted. Various species are going extinct. They're becoming endangered. And we want a better future. And kids need education. There's an endless amount of second-order effects. And hopefully Bitcoin accelerates those. Hopefully Orange Pill app accelerates those. And so as a fun little token to thank you guys, this is Brian, the penguin.
Okay.
And we got Mateo, the penguin. So obviously the hope is that by bringing better property rights for humans, humans at Apex Predator can have a longer time horizon, and ultimately we have intangible benefits in every way. Orange Pill app, Bitcoin Advisor, Bitcoin in general. So thank you guys for the work you're doing. Now, as on my behalf as a thank you, and everyone watching, and on the penguin's behalf, thank you for what you're doing at accelerating Bitcoin and merchant adoption. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, dude. That's awesome.